We're getting 1,000 texts a minute at this stage, so people are interested in it. Eddie Hobbs. Eddie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
Well, let me ask you, do you agree that Saturday's protests were acceptable?
Well, it's understandable. I wasn't there. I can't comment on the detail, but the problem here is that the water protest movement, I believe, needs a focus, a positive focus on what is possible, and that we all need to go to the fundamental problem which the water situation has brought about, and that's that when De Valera wrote the Irish Constitution in the 1930s, or oversaw writing it, he did it at a time when there was a veneration of the state. The state had just emerged, the imperial, the empires were broken after the First World War, and of course at the extreme you had Nazism and you had clerical fascism in Spain and so on. And what he did was, in Article 10 of the 1937 Constitution, he made water and all our natural resources belong to the state. Now this is a critical point in my opinion, belong to the state and not to the Irish people. And there's a big difference between the Irish people and the state.
And what is your point, Eddie? Sorry.
My point is that in Jobstown what you saw was that fissure coming up again, the difference between the people and the state. The state ought to be a trustee of our natural resources and not the owner. The ownership should be the people. And if Article 10 of the Constitution was rearranged to reflect that, which it is in many other modern democracies, it would mean that the protesters would be taking the Irish state right now as a trustee into the High Court for breach of its duty. And we wouldn't have gone through this whole saga for the last number of months.
But would there be, who would take a case to the High Court?
Well, you see, this is the thing. Under the existing Constitution, the state is the owner of our natural resources, including water, when it ought to be the trustee. And that's why we have a fear as a people that, for example, if Irish Water pre-existed the crisis, it might have been sold as one of the conditions of the Troika. We just don't know, and the only way you can't trust the state because it will act in self-preservation. What you have to do is to have a balance between the power of the people and the power of the state, and it's greatly imbalanced in Article 10 of the 1937 Constitution. So if it is changed, it would then mean that the other thing that would have to change is Article 45, which means that we can't actually take the state to court. And if those two things are changed, it would mean that the Irish people become the owner of Irish water and all our other natural resources, including offshore oil and gas. And we can then take the state as trustee to court if it acts offensive to the common interest. Now, obviously, you would have to have a certain threshold of signatures behind such court action.
Okay, well, there is people in favour of water charges. You know that, Eddie.
No, but that's a different issue. I mean, look, what I'm saying is that what we're seeing here is the state dictating terms to the Irish people on an asset that the Irish people themselves ought to own.
Okay, and what do you think? Well, what do you think about the fact that the state looks like about to take a monumental U-turn in their own figures on Wednesday?
The state, in an act of self-preservation, is simply buying 3 or 4 years of time before this fissure comes up again. And in that period of time, those involved in the water protest movement and others ought to look at lobbying for a constitutional amendment so that we, the people, we give the power to the trustee of the state, but if it works against our interests, we take it to court, not to the streets.
Okay. Thanks indeed. That's Eddie Hobbs. And Eddie, by the way, has a fascinating book on the whole ownership of natural resources out at him. And thanks indeed, Eddie Hobbs.